have reached out to the SEC to make it a 16-team conference, and the insider who clued me into this said that there could be an announcement even in the next few weeks that they could join the conference. And Paul, it's incredible, the timing. 10 years ago to this day is when Bowen Lofton, then Texas A&M's president, stepped out of a regents meeting, and there were a few of us standing there, and he said, the Big 12 is in a state of uncertainty because of the Longhorn Network. That was 10 years ago today. And you know how once that was out, how things progressed rapidly. And so now it's Texas and Oklahoma in that situation, wanting to join the SEC.
And Brent, there have always been rumors about Oklahoma in the SEC. And you know, they come up, they bubble back down. But I think Texas would have been maybe the last school you would have ever thought to come to the SEC, just because of all the things that you know living in Texas. I mean, Texas, has a healthy opinion of itself. They have their own network, which, by the way, is owned by ESPN. And you finished the sentence for them, because it just seemed like they at one time were looking west at the Pac-12. They thought they belonged out there with the Cal Berkeleys and the Stanfords of the world. It just never seemed like and they also snickered a little bit when A&M came over here.
I was going to say that, Paul. I was saying everything you were saying seems like they would have been a better fit for the Pac-12. And that was certainly a consideration a decade ago. And then at that point, people thought, well, of course, Texas A&M is going to join Texas. Those two are going to do everything together, and they're going to head out west. Well, some Aggies in some high places, obviously Gene Stallings being one of them, said that's ridiculous. Texas A&M needs to join the SEC, and it's a good cultural fit. I think Texas is just looking ahead at everything that's going on, the NIL, the expanded playoffs, all of those things, the payout that A&M is now getting compared to what they got in the Big 12, putting it all together and saying that they would like to be a part of that. And the SEC is thinking forward in terms of saying we want to be the first 16-team conference as well in terms of the super conferences.
Maybe because I'm from the newspaper side, I'm so intrigued about how things happen and when and why. And what can you tell us about the process of the development of this story?
I believe it's been in the works at the highest ranks for a little while, but now that it's out there, I think it's going to move rapidly. And essentially, this came from a high-ranking college official who's aware of the situation, wanted it out there, and that's what we have now. And if you look back to what Bowen Lofton did a decade ago with that calculated move of saying that the Big 12 is in a state of uncertainty, it rapidly moved things forward at that point for the Aggies in Missouri as well later on. And I think you're going to see that as well now that the story is out.
Brent, it's easy for me to sit here with you without you sitting next to me and go, man, I don't know about the timing of this. I mean, right as Jimbo Fisher is walking into the room, I do know a little bit about the business. You just don't throw a dart when you hear a rumor. I mean, you got to vet a story, and then you have to get your bosses to sign off on it. So can you take us through any of that, how this story just ended up breaking when it did?
Paul, I was the guy wandering around the lobby holding a laptop and a cell phone that was running out of battery and scrambling and trying to get responses from the two universities involved, with the idea of knowing that the more we asked, the more the story might get out there from someone else at that point. So once we got confirmation from the University of Texas that they said, they did not deny it, of course. No one has denied it. They said they're not going to address these rumors. First, it was no comment. Then at that point, we decided to go with the story.
How long did it take
to get that? The timing was coincidental.
Okay.
If you want to say that. I still think it's crazy that it was 10 years ago to the day that Lofton tipped off the new wave of realignment. So that was coincidental. It wasn't by any stretch. I mean, today was a day we had all looked forward to because it was Mike Leach, Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher. There was plenty of news that was going to be reported otherwise, so it was just coincidental. It wasn't planned that way.
So is this something that you've been working on, or is this something that's kind of bubbled up?
Let's go with the bubbled up aspect of it. I mean, you had heard things.
Sure.
But it happened in a hurry.
There were some rumors.
Right, but there always are rumors.
You can't report a rumor.
Yeah, when it comes from a very high-ranking official.
A lot of people can, but
yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. And so when it comes from, a high-ranking official who would know, then that's when you really start
And
chasing.
I want the audience to understand something. I'm not being a journalism professor, but there's a lot of you work for a very large, reputable newspaper, and I'm assuming there's a standard. You just can't tell your editors, I talked to a guy who knows a guy, right?
Right. Absolutely. My boss, Reed Lamance, and he knows, we have a good relationship, and he knows he can trust me. Like, for instance, when Texas A&M was getting ready to hire Jim Schlossnagle as baseball coach, I had it ready to go, but there was some thought right at the end that LSU might be in play. We didn't go with it. We held because we wanted to be cautious. We're always going to be cautious. And in this situation, it's an impeccable source, one I've relied on for decades.
Right.
And has never steered me wrong. So all those things come into play when you decide on when to go with the story.
So, because you are at the vanguard of the story, can you give us a roadmap of what you think happens next?
I'm going to use A&M in Missouri as the example. That with it out in the public and there not being any flat denials from anyone with the SEC, from anyone from Texas or Oklahoma, that things are going to move forward pretty rapidly. In fact, my insider said that there could be an announcement within 2 weeks in terms of making this a 16-team conference in the SEC.
So it is your belief based on what you've been told. And I want to make it clear. You're not sitting here, I'm a pundit. You're a reporter. Mm-hmm. This is not you, Brent, saying, I think this is what you're being told.
Correct.
Okay. And what you're being told, just to make sure I'm clear, and I'm pretty sure I am, that this person told you that the announcement